I never expected to find my brother's fiancée's engagement ring hidden in our parents' safe deposit box, especially since he hasn't spoken to me in 5 years. I'm sitting here in my apartment in Austin, staring at the photograph I took with my phone, my hand still shaking slightly from the discovery. The ring is unmistakable, a 3-carat oval diamond with paved band. Exactly the ring my younger brother David used in his proposal to Natalie 6 months ago. The same ring their mother, my stepmother Patricia, gushed about during the one family dinner I was grudgingly invited to last year. The problem is, that ring was supposed to have been their grandmother's heirloom, passed down through generations with a romantic story about enduring love. The problem is, I now have the receipt from a Houston jeweler dated 3 weeks before proposal, showing a purchase price of $47,000, charged my father's credit card. The problem, I'm beginning to realize, is that my entire understanding of my family might be built on lies. Let me back up, because this didn't start with a safe deposit box. This started 40 years ago when my parents divorced, and the narrative of my life was set in motion long before I had any say in it. I'm 36 now, a software architect living alone in a high-rise with a view of the Colorado River and a persistent feeling that I'm still waiting for the other shoe to drop. My father, Richard, remarried when I was 7. Patricia came with her own daughter, Natalie, who was 5, and within 2 years they had David together. From the beginning, I was the outsider, the reminder of my father's first marriage, the living evidence that their perfect blended family wasn't his first attempt. I don't think Patricia ever explicitly mistreated me, not in ways that would leave bruises or get noticed by teachers. It was the small things, the accumulated weight of 1,000 tiny exclusions. When family photos were taken, I was always positioned at the edge. When vacations were planned, somehow the dates always conflicted with my visits. When I made honor roll in middle school, my father would pat me on the head and say, "Good job," before turning his attention to David's soccer game or Natalie's dance recital. I learned early that my accomplishments were background noise in the symphony of their perfect family. High school was when I really understood my place. I was a decent student, not exceptional but solid, and I discovered a talent for coding in a computer science elective. I spent hours teaching myself Python and Java, building simple games and websites, finding solace in the logical clarity of code. It was predictable. It didn't play favorites. David, meanwhile, was the golden child. He was athletic, charming, effortlessly popular. Natalie was the artistic one, talented in ways that seemed to come naturally, while I had to work twice as hard for half the recognition. When David got a C in math, it was because the teacher didn't understand his learning style. When Natalie forgot a turn in a major project, it was because her creative mind worked differently. When I got an A, it was expected, unremarkable, just another confirmation that I was a practical one, the reliable one, the one who didn't need attention or validation. The college years cemented everything. I'd saved money from summer jobs, applied for every scholarship I could find, and managed to get into UT Austin with a combination of academic grants and student loans. My father contributed exactly $5,000 over 4 years, sent in 2 installments with notes about how they were proud of my independence. David went to Baylor on their full tuition, with spending money and a new car. Natalie studied abroad in Florence for 2 years, then transferred to an art school in New York. I worked 40 hours a week while taking a full course load and graduated with $53,000 in debt. I don't tell you this to generate sympathy. I tell you this because context matters when I explain what happened next. After graduation, I did what ambitious 22-year-olds with coding skills did in the mid-2010s. I moved to San Francisco, slept on a friend's couch for 6 months, and threw myself into the startup world. I was lucky, sure, but I was also relentless. I worked 80-hour weeks, learned on the job, took risks that terrified me. By 26, I was a lead engineer at a fintech company that got acquired for $200 million. My share was enough to pay off my loans, buy a modest condo in Oakland, and still have a comfortable cushion. By 30, I'd moved back to Texas, Austin this time, joined a promising new venture, and watched it grow into something substantial. When we went public last year, my net worth crossed into territory I'd never imagined possible. I'm not wealthy in the tech bro, private jet sense. I'm wealthy in the I could retire tomorrow and never worry about money sense. I own my apartment outright, drive a 3-year-old Tesla, and have investment accounts that generate more in a year than my father makes in 5. Throughout all of this, my relationship with my family remained distant but superficially cordial. I flew to Houston for Christmas every other year, sent birthday gifts, made phone calls on major holidays. The conversations were always the same, updates about David's latest venture, real estate developments that never quite panned out, restaurant investments that somehow lost money, a craft brewery that closed after 18 months. Natalie's gallery openings, which I was never invited to but heard about secondhand, and my father's semi-retirement, which seemed to involve a lot of golf and complaining about property taxes. They never asked about my life in any meaningful way. When I mentioned my work, their eyes glazed over. When I talked about travel, they'd redirect to David's recent trip to Cabo or Natalie's artist residency in Berlin. I learned to keep conversations shallow, to offer nothing they could use or dismiss. I wasn't hiding my success deliberately. I just didn't see the point in sharing it with people who had spent 36 years demonstrating that my life was, at best, an afterthought. Then David got engaged. The announcement came via group text, a photo of him and Natalie, his Natalie, not my stepsister. Confusing, I know, with the ring prominently displayed. The story attached was that the ring had belonged to David's paternal grandmother, his father's mother, and had been saved for this moment for decades. It was romantic, sentimental, the kind of narrative that plays well at weddings and in Christmas newsletters. I congratulated him, sent a nice gift from their registry, and didn't think much more about it. 6 months later, my father had a minor heart attack. Nothing catastrophic. A stent, a few days in the hospital, a lifetime of medication and lifestyle changes, but enough to shake the family. I flew to Houston, spent 3 days at the hospital, sat through uncomfortable meals with Patricia and Natalie, my stepsister, where we carefully avoided any topic deeper than the weather. During one of those afternoons, while my father was sleeping and Patricia had gone home to shower, I found myself alone in their house. I'm not sure what prompted me to open the home office safe. Curiosity, maybe, or the lingering suspicion that had lived in my gut for 30 years that nothing in this family was quite as it seemed. The combination hadn't changed since I was a teenager. My father's birthday reversed, and the door swung open easily. Inside, among insurance documents and old passports, I found a small velvet box. Inside that box, the ring, and tucked beneath it, the receipt. I took photos of everything, closed the safe, and went back to the hospital like nothing had happened. But my mind was racing. Why would they lie about the ring? Why claim it was an heirloom if they'd bought it weeks before proposal? The receipt showed a credit card charge, which meant my father had paid for it. Was that part of the lie, too, or had David reimbursed him? And what else had they lied about? I didn't confront anyone. I'm not the confrontational type. Instead, I went home to Austin and tried to file it away as just another example of my family's casual dishonesty. But the image of that ring kept surfacing, a symbol of something rotten beneath the surface. 2 weeks later, my stepbrother David called me. This was unusual. We hadn't spoken directly in years, communicating only through group texts and holiday emails. His voice sounded strained, older than his 33 years. "Hey, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest with me." I braced myself. "Okay. Did Dad buy my engagement ring?" The question hung in the air. I considered lying, considered protecting whatever fragile piece existed between us. But I was tired of protecting a family that had never protected me. Yes, I said. I saw the receipt in the safe when I was in Houston. David was quiet for a long moment. Then he laughed, a hollow sound with no humor in it. Of course he did. Of fucking course. The story that followed was complicated and painful. David proposed to Natalie with a ring he'd bought on credit. A ring he couldn't actually afford, but had convinced himself he needed to prove his worth. When the credit card bills came due, he'd panicked, confessed to our father, and Richard had loaned him the money to pay it off. The heirloom story was Patricia's idea. She thought it would add romance to the engagement and explain why the ring was so expensive without raising questions about David's finances. But that was just the beginning. As David talked, the real story emerged. He was drowning, in debt from failed business ventures, in the expectations of a family that had always told him he was special without ever teaching him how to work, in a marriage that was already strained by financial secrets. Our father had been bailing him out for years, taking out loans against the house, dipping into retirement savings, lying to Patricia about where the money was going. Mom doesn't know any of this, David said. She thinks I'm successful. She thinks Dad is just generous. If she found out, the perfect family narrative would shatter. The golden child would be revealed as a failure. The supportive father would be exposed as an enabler. The artist daughter, my stepsister Natalie, had her own issues, a gambling problem that had quietly drained her trust fund. But that's another story for another time. Why are you telling me this? I asked. David hesitated. Because I need help. Real help. Not money. I know better than to ask you for that. But I need someone to talk to who isn't tangled up in this mess. Someone who sees it clearly. I didn't know what to say. For 33 years, David had been the favorite, the one who got everything I didn't. And now he was calling me the outsider, because I was the only one who could see the truth. We talked for another hour. I listened more than I spoke, letting him unload years of pressure and pretense. By the end, something had shifted between us. Not quite trust, but maybe the possibility of it. That was 3 months ago. Since then, David and I have talked regularly, cautiously building a relationship that never existed before. He started therapy, admitted to Natalie, his Natalie, the truth about their finances, and begun the slow, painful work of rebuilding his life on a foundation of honesty instead of illusion. Our father doesn't know we're talking. Patricia doesn't know about any of it. The family narrative continues unchanged, a beautiful lie that everyone pretends to believe. Last week, David asked me to be his best man. I said yes. The wedding is in 2 months, and I'm flying to Houston next weekend for the rehearsal dinner. I'll stand in a room full of people who have spent my entire life treating me as an afterthought, and I'll watch my brother marry the woman he loves, and I'll smile, and I'll make a toast, and I'll pretend that everything is fine. But here's the thing I've realized. Pretending isn't the same as lying. I'm not pretending to be someone I'm not. I'm choosing to show up, to be present, to give this damaged relationship a chance to become something real. My brother and I have spent 33 years as strangers connected by blood. Maybe it's time we became family connected by choice. My father called yesterday, his voice hearty with forced normalcy. Big weekend coming up. You ready for the bachelor party? David says you're planning something special. I am planning something special. A quiet weekend in the hill country. Just the two of us, hiking and talking and maybe finally learning who we are outside the roles our family assigned us. No strippers, no excessive drinking, no performances for anyone else. That's the plan, I said. Good, good. Listen, your mother, Patricia, wants to have a family dinner the night before the rehearsal. Just us. She's making your favorite, that chicken thing with the artichokes. I almost laughed. My favorite? I'd never had a favorite meal in that house. Every dinner was whatever David and Natalie wanted, with my preferences an afterthought at best. Sounds great, I said. I'll be there. After I hung up, I sat in my apartment and looked out at the river and thought about the ring in the safe deposit box, the receipt tucked beneath it, the decades of small lies that had built the foundation of my family. I thought about David's confession, his willingness to finally see himself clearly. I thought about my father, still performing the role of patriarch, still pretending that everything was fine. I don't know what the future holds. Maybe this wedding will be a fresh start. Maybe it will be the beginning of a more honest relationship with my brother. Maybe Patricia will eventually learn the truth, and the family will shatter, and we'll all have to rebuild from the rubble. Or maybe nothing will change, and I'll continue to be the outsider at family gatherings, the one who doesn't quite belong, the reminder of first marriage that everyone wishes they could forget. But for now, I'm choosing to show up. I'm choosing to believe that people can change, that relationships can heal, that the truth, even painful truth, is better than comfortable lies. I'm choosing to be my brother's best man, not because our family expects it, but because he asked and because I want to be there. Last night, David texted me. Thanks for everything. I know this isn't easy for you. It means more than I can say. I texted back. That's what brothers are for. I'm not sure if that's true. I've never really known what brothers are for. But maybe I'm about to find out. The wedding is in 2 months. I've bought my suit, booked my flight, prepared my toast. I've thought about mentioning the ring, the lie that started this whole journey. But I won't. Some truths don't need to be spoken aloud. Some healing happens in silence. My name is Connor, and this is my family. Complicated, damaged, full of secrets and lies, but also maybe full of possibility. For the first time in my life, I'm not waiting for them to see me. I'm seeing them, clearly, completely, without illusion, and I'm choosing to stay. That has to count for something. The wedding is over. I'm back in Austin, sitting in my apartment with a glass of whiskey and a head full of memories I'm still processing. I promised I'd update. So here goes. The weekend started exactly as I expected. Awkward, performative, full of the kind of forced cheerfulness that characterizes every family gathering. I arrived in Houston on Friday afternoon, checked into my hotel, and spent an hour staring at the ceiling before driving to my parents' house for the pre-rehearsal dinner Patricia had planned. She'd actually made the chicken with artichokes, which surprised me. It was good, though I couldn't help wondering if this was genuine effort or just another performance. My father was in full patriarch mode, holding court about golf and investments and his upcoming retirement plans. Patricia fluttered around, refilling drinks and smoothing over conversational rough patches. Natalie, my stepsister, was there with her latest boyfriend, an artist who spoke exclusively in vague pronouncements about light and space. David and his Natalie arrived together, both of them radiating the particular glow of people days away from their wedding. It was almost normal. Almost. After dinner, David pulled me aside. Walk with me. We ended up in the backyard, under the oak tree where we played as children, or rather, where David had played while I watched from the sidelines. The Texas heat had broken slightly, and the evening was almost pleasant. Thank you for being here, he said. I know this isn't easy. It's your wedding. I'm your brother. Where else would I be? He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. There's something I need to tell you. Before tomorrow. I waited. The ring, the real story, there's more to it. He took a breath. Dad didn't just pay off my credit card. He took out a second mortgage on this house to cover all my debts. The restaurant, the brewery, everything. Mom doesn't know. She thinks they're financially secure. They're not. I'd suspected something like this. But hearing it confirmed still landed like a punch. How bad? Close to 300,000, maybe more. Dad's been hiding statements, opening credit cards in his name only, lying about their investments. If Mom finds out, she'll find out eventually. I know. I know. He ran his hands through his hair. I'm going to tell her. After the wedding. I can't start my marriage with this secret hanging over everyone. We stood there in the dark. Two men who'd spent 33 years as strangers, finally telling each other the truth. Whatever you need, I said. I'm here. The wedding itself was beautiful. David and Natalie exchanged vows under a canopy of flowers, cried during their readings, danced like no one was watching. I gave my toast short, sincere, focused on the future instead of the past, and watched my father wipe away tears. Patricia beamed at everyone, the perfect mother of the groom. For one afternoon, we were exactly what we pretended to be. A happy family celebrating a happy occasion. Then Sunday happened. The post-wedding brunch was winding down when my father pulled me aside. We need to talk. Your mother and I. I followed him to a quiet corner of the restaurant, where Patricia was waiting with an expression I couldn't read. For a moment, I thought maybe David had already told them. Maybe this was about to get very uncomfortable. Connor, my father began, we've been thinking about the future, about family. I waited. Your brother's wedding got us thinking about legacy, about what we're leaving behind. He glanced at Patricia. We're not getting any younger, and we've made some investments that haven't worked out as planned. Patricia jumped in. What your father is trying to say is that we need help, financial help, just temporarily, until we get things sorted out. There it was, the request I've been expecting for years, the moment I dreaded and prepared for an equal measure. How much? I asked. They exchanged glances. We were thinking 100,000? Just to consolidate some debts, give us breathing room. I thought about the second mortgage, the hidden credit cards, the $300,000 my father had poured into David's failed dreams. I thought about my college years, working 40 hours a week while David studied on full scholarship. I thought about every Christmas, every birthday, every moment of my life when I've been an afterthought in this family. No, I said. The word hung in the air between us. Patricia's face crumpled. My father's jaw tightened. No? What do you mean, no? I mean, I'm not giving you $100,000. Connor, we're your parents. We raised you, we fed you, You did the minimum. Legally required minimum. My voice was calm, steadier than I felt. I paid my own way through college. I built my career alone. You've spent 40 years making it clear that I'm not really part of this family. And now, when you need money, suddenly I'm your son again. Patricia started crying. My father's face turned red. How dare you? After everything we've done. What have you done? Name one thing. One sacrifice you made for me that you didn't make for David or Natalie. He couldn't. We all knew he couldn't. I'll tell you what I'll do, I said. I'll pay for a financial advisor. Someone who can help you sort out your actual situation and make a real plan. I'll even cover the cost. But I'm not writing you a check. Not now, not ever. I stood up, left money on the table for my share of the brunch, and walked out. David called me that night. I heard what happened. I'm sorry. Not your fault. It kind of is. Most of that debt is mine. Your debt, their choices. You didn't force him to take out loans. He was quiet for a moment. I told Mom. After you left, I told her everything. How'd she take it? Not well. She's at my apartment now, actually staying with us for a few days. She and Dad are not in a good place. I didn't know what to feel. Relief that the truth was finally out? Guilt that my confrontation had triggered it? Something more complicated that I couldn't name? Are you okay? I asked. I don't know. I think so. It's weird. I've been carrying this for so long, and now it's out, and everything's terrible, but also lighter? Does that make sense? It made perfect sense. I flew home the next day. Since then, I've had exactly one conversation with my father, a short, painful call where he accused me of destroying the family, of turning everyone against him, of being selfish and ungrateful and cold. I let him talk, then told him I loved him anyway, and hung up. Patricia and I have exchanged a few texts. She's staying with David and Natalie indefinitely, trying to figure out what comes next. She hasn't asked me for money again, which I appreciate. David and I talk every few days. We're building something real, something that exists outside the damaged ecosystem of our family. It's slow and fragile and sometimes awkward, but it's ours. I've started seeing a therapist. I'm 36 years old, and I'm finally learning that boundaries aren't walls, that saying no isn't the same as abandoning people, that love and money are different things, and mixing them usually ends badly. The ring is still in my father's safe deposit box. As far as I know, the receipt is still tucked beneath it. But the lies that ring represented are finally, slowly, being dismantled. It's painful and messy, and I'm not sure where we'll end up, but for the first time in my life, I think we might end up somewhere real. 3 months have passed since the wedding. 3 months of silence from my father, cautious rebuilding with Patricia, and genuine connection with David. I thought I had reached some kind of equilibrium, damaged but healing, distant but not destroyed. Then my father's lawyer called. The letter arrived by certified mail, thick enough to suggest serious intent, and expensive enough to make me laugh when I saw the law firm's letterhead. My father was suing me, not for money. Exactly. He knew better than to try that route, but for emotional distress and breach of familial contract. Whatever that meant. The document was full of creative interpretations of family law and outright fabrications about financial promises I'd supposedly made over the years. According to the complaint, I had promised to pay for David's college education, false. Agreed to cover my parents' medical expenses in their retirement, false. Accepted responsibility for family debts in exchange for inheritance rights, completely false, and also not how inheritance works. The document demanded $500,000 in damages, plus legal fees, plus some kind of public acknowledgement that I'd wronged the family. I called my lawyer, the same one who'd helped me navigate the startup acquisition years ago. She read the complaint, laughed, then read it again more seriously. "This is nonsense," she said. "He has no case. But he's hoping you'll settle to avoid the embarrassment of a public fight. Can I countersue? For what? Harassment? Emotional distress? I don't know. Whatever applies when your father tries to extort you through the legal system." She was quiet for a moment. We could try, but it would get messy and expensive and public. I thought about it. Thought about the years of small exclusions, the favoritism, the lies. Thought about the ring in the safe deposit box and the second mortgage and everything my family had hidden from each other and from me. Thought about David, finally building something real, and Patricia, slowly learning the truth about her marriage. "No," I said, "I don't want to fight. I want to be done." So my lawyer drafted a response, brief, professional, denying everything and pointing out the complete lack of legal basis for any of it. We filed it and waited. 2 weeks later, my father dropped the case. His lawyer sent a terse notice of voluntary dismissal. No explanation given. I later learned from David that the legal fees were already mounting, and my father's credit was so damaged he couldn't borrow more. The second mortgage, the hidden credit cards, the years of enabling, they'd finally caught up with him. Patricia filed for divorce last month. She called to tell me herself, her voice strange. Sad, but also relieved, like someone finally setting down a weight they'd carried too long. I should have seen it, she said. All the signs were there. I just didn't want to look. None of us did, I said. That's how it works. She's living in a small apartment now, working part-time at a gallery, rebuilding a life she'd abandoned decades ago. We talk every couple of weeks. It's strange and uncomfortable, and also, somehow, right, David and Natalie are expecting a baby. They told me first, before anyone else, and when I heard the news I cried, actual tears, alone in my apartment, overwhelmed by something I couldn't name. My brother, the golden child who'd been given everything I wasn't, was going to be a father, and he'd chosen me to know first. My father lives alone in the house, the one with the second mortgage and the oak tree and 30 years of memories that probably feel like lies now. He hasn't spoken to me since the lawsuit. David says he's drinking more, isolating himself, refusing help. I don't know what to do with that information. Part of me feels guilty. Part of me feels nothing. Most of me feels both at once, which is confusing and exhausting, and probably something my therapist will help me unpack. I've started writing. Not professionally, just for myself. Notes about my childhood, my career, my relationships. Try and make sense of a life that's been defined by absence as much as presence. Try to understand what family means when the traditional version fails. Last night, I had dinner with David and Natalie. We sat on their patio, ate grilled vegetables, and talked about the baby. David asked if I'd be the godfather. I said yes. On my way home, I thought about the ring again, the one that started all this, the lie that cracked everything open. It's still in my father's safe deposit box, probably. Or maybe he sold it. I don't know, and I don't care. The ring was never really about diamonds or debt or even truth. It was about the stories we tell ourselves to survive, the narratives we construct to make sense of our choices. My father told himself he was helping his son. Patricia told herself she had the perfect family. David told himself he could be the person everyone expected him to be. I told myself I didn't need any of them. We were all wrong. We were all right. We were all just doing our best with the tools we had. The baby's due in March. I've already started thinking about what I'll say when they're old enough to ask about family. I won't lie. I've had enough of lies. But I won't make it simple either, because it's not. Family is complicated. Love is complicated. Forgiveness is maybe the most complicated of all. But I'm here. I'm showing up. I'm trying. That has to count for something. The baby came early, a girl with David's eyes and Natalie's stubbornness. I flew to Houston the day she was born, held her in my arms while my brother slept in a hospital chair, and his wife recovered from 18 hours of labor. She was tiny and perfect, and completely unaware of the complicated family she'd been born into. I thought about telling her, someday, about the ring and the lies and the lawsuit, about the grandfather she might never know and the grandmother who was learning to be honest, about her father, who'd spent 33 years pretending to be someone else and was finally, slowly, becoming himself. But that's a story for another time. Right now, she just needed to be held. Patricia came to the hospital the next day. We met in the hallway. Awkward and uncertain, two people connected by history, but not quite family. She looked different, lighter somehow, despite everything. "Congratulations," I said. "Grandmother." She smiled. "It feels strange." Good strange, I think. We stood there for a moment, not quite knowing what to say. "I'm sorry," she said finally, "for all of it, for not seeing you, for letting everything happen the way it did. Thank you. I don't expect forgiveness. I just wanted you to know." I thought about it. Thought about the years of exclusion, the favoritism, the lies. Thought about Patricia now. Trying, showing up, doing the work. "I know," I said. That's enough for now. My father wasn't invited to the hospital. David made that decision, and I supported it. Some lines can't be uncrossed. At least not yet. Maybe someday. Maybe not. We're all learning that forgiveness isn't a switch you flip. It's a process, slow and uneven and different for everyone. I stayed in Houston for a week, helping with the baby, getting to know my brother and his wife as actual people instead of characters in a family drama. We talked about our childhoods, our different experiences of the same events, the ways our parents had shaped us without our consent. We fought once about something stupid, I don't even remember what, and made up an hour later, which felt like progress. On my last night, David and I sat on his patio, drinking beer and watching the stars. "Thank you," he said, "for everything. You don't need to thank me." "I do. You didn't have to show up. Most people wouldn't have." I thought about that. Thought about all the reasons I could have walked away, all the justifications for cutting ties and protecting myself. Thought about the version of my life where I never answered that first call, never learned the truth about the ring, never gave my brother a chance. I almost didn't, I admitted. When you first called, I almost let it go to voicemail. Why didn't you? I considered the question. Because I was tired. Tired of being angry. Tired of being separate. Tired of letting the past define the future. You called, and I answered, and here we are. "Here we are," he agreed. We sat in comfortable silence for a while. "I'm going to be a better father than ours was," David said. "Not perfect. I know I'm not perfect. But better. Present. Honest. You will be." "How do you know?" "Because you're here, saying that. Because you're doing the work. Because you're not pretending anymore." He nodded, stared at the stars. "I want her to know you, really know you, not as the uncle who shows up at holidays, but as family, as someone she can count on. She will." We finished our beers and went inside. The baby was sleeping, Natalie was reading, and for a moment, just a moment, everything felt exactly as it should be. I flew home the next day. My apartment felt empty after a week of noise and chaos, but also peaceful. Mine, chosen, real. I've thought a lot about family since then, about what it means, what it should mean, what it can mean when you strip away the obligations and expectations and just focus on the people. My family is smaller now. My father is still absent. My relationship with Patricia is cautious. My connections to extended relatives are mostly theoretical, but it's also deeper. David and I talk every week. I send Natalie ridiculous memes. I've already started a college fund for my niece. The ring is still out there somewhere. Probably the lies are still being untangled. The damage is still healing. But here's what I've learned. Family isn't about blood or obligation or the stories we tell ourselves. It's about showing up. It's about choosing each other, even when it's hard, even when it would be easier to walk away. It's about holding a newborn baby and thinking about the future instead of the past. My niece is 3 months old now. She has no idea how complicated her family is. And she doesn't need to. Someday she'll learn, and I'll be there to help her understand. But for now, she just needs to be loved. And she is. By her parents, by her grandmother, by her uncle, by a family that's broken and healing and trying, by all of us. My name is Connor, and this is my family. It's not what I expected. It's not what anyone expected. But it's real and it's mine, and I'm grateful for every complicated, difficult, beautiful part of it. The end.